Rome, the city of lights, cinema, and dreams. Every October, the Rome Film Festival turns the Italian capital into a stage where elegance meets emotion, where stars walk not just to be seen, but to be remembered. But this year, something different happened. Because when King Yaman arrived, the atmosphere changed. From the moment his black car stopped at the red carpet, a wave of screams and flashing lights filled the air. Fans had been waiting for hours, some even since dawn, just to see him walk those few meters. They carried signs, hearts, and words written in Turkish, Italian, and even Spanish, "Can, ti amo." He stepped out wearing a perfectly tailored black suit, his trademark look that blended confidence with mystery. But behind those dark glasses, something was different. His smile was there, but not the same smile fans remembered from his Erkenci days. There was something quieter, almost nostalgic. Reporters immediately surrounded him. Microphones stretched forward, questions flying, about Sandokan, about his rumored Italian co-star, about Demet Özdemir, about his projects. But Can's answers were short. Polite. Reserved. Then came that moment, the one nobody expected. While walking up the red carpet, a young journalist asked, "Can, is it true that Demet is coming tonight?" For a brief second, he froze. His eyes turned toward the crowd, as if searching for a familiar face. The cameras caught that exact instant. His gaze softening, his lips parting slightly, as though he was about to say her name. But he didn't. The crowd went silent for a heartbeat. You could feel the tension in the air. And then, Can smiled again, that famous half-smile that hides more than it reveals, and simply said, "Rome always brings back memories." That was it. One line. But it was enough to send social media into absolute chaos. Within minutes, Twitter exploded. What memories, Can? Did he just confirm he and Demet met here before? Is Demet really coming? The video clip spread across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube in seconds. And the world started asking the same question: what really happened in Rome that night? After that single line, "Rome always brings back memories," the energy around him completely shifted. Every camera zoomed in closer. Every reporter leaned forward. Because everyone in that moment understood one thing: he wasn't just talking about Rome. He was talking about her. Demet Özdemir. The woman who, years ago, had turned from his co-star into something far more meaningful, someone who had changed his life both on and off screen. They had shared laughter, tears, sleepless nights on set, and that undeniable chemistry that no one could fake. Even today, fans still say they weren't acting, they were living it. And now, in Rome, all those memories came flooding back. As King continued walking toward the festival hall, you could see it in the small gestures. The way he adjusted his jacket nervously, how he avoided eye contact for a few seconds, how he took a deep breath before facing the cameras again. It wasn't just stage presence anymore, it was emotion. Raw. Unfiltered. Real. Inside the festival, the crowd rose to their feet. The lights dimmed. The red carpet had turned into a runway of whispers, and every whisper carried one name: Demet. Rumors had spread days before that she might attend as a surprise guest. Some claimed she was filming nearby in Italy. Others swore she had been spotted at the airport in Fiumicino just 24 hours earlier. Nobody could confirm it, but the possibility alone was enough to drive fans wild. Ken took his seat in the front row. The premiere was about to start, an Italian director's emotional film about love, distance, and destiny. Ironically, its theme felt eerily close to his own story. When the movie began, Ken seemed calm. But halfway through, during a scene where two lovers reunite after years apart, someone in the audience gasped. Cameras quickly turned, and then it happened. At the far end of the hall, a woman entered quietly. Wearing a long, elegant black dress and a subtle diamond earring that shimmered under the lights. She walked with calm confidence, almost unaware of the chaos her presence would cause. And when she removed her mask, every flash went off at once. It was Demet Özdemir. The hall erupted. People stood, phones in the air, recording history. Ken turned, his reaction pure disbelief. For a second, he didn't move. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. The man who could control any scene, any camera, any moment, froze completely. And in that silence, every fan watching from home, every journalist in the room, every person who had ever followed their story, knew that this was the moment nobody expected. The hall went completely silent. You could hear nothing, no whispers, no camera clicks, not even the faint hum of the projectors. Just silence. Because in that one instant, Ken Yaman and Demet Özdemir were finally face to face again, in Rome, of all places. He stood up slowly, almost as if in a trance. His eyes, still trying to believe what they were seeing, locked on her. Demet's expression was calm, almost too calm. But her eyes told a different story. They shimmered, not with the sparkle of red carpet glamour, but with something softer. Something real. The entire audience froze, unsure whether they were witnessing a scene from a movie or a memory playing out in real life. And then, a single, small smile appeared on Demet's face, that familiar, delicate smile that once had the power to completely disarm him. Ken didn't smile back at first. Instead, he took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and for a moment, looked like a man torn between the past and the present. The cameras were already recording, social media was exploding, and millions of fans across the world were watching through live streams. Is this real? Are we seeing this right now? Demet and Ken in the same place, after all these years. Hashtags like #CanDemet in Rome and #Rome Festival Shock instantly trended worldwide. But for Ken, that moment wasn't about the cameras or the audience, it was about her. He remembered the first time they met, on a bright Istanbul morning when she walked onto set, nervous but radiant. He remembered how they'd learned to read each other's eyes before even speaking. He remembered the last goodbye, that quiet, heavy silence that followed them for years. And now, here she was, in the same city where he had once promised himself he'd move on. But seeing her again made that promise feel like a lie. Demet approached slowly, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. Every step echoed through the hall. When she stopped in front of him, she simply said, "I didn't think we'd meet here, again." Ken blinked, his voice low, almost breaking, "Neither did I." It was such a simple exchange, but it carried years of emotions, misunderstandings, and unspoken words. The festival organizers tried to keep the event moving, but nobody cared about the film anymore. All eyes were on them. And then, as Demet was escorted to her seat just 2 rows behind him, something unexpected happened. The movie's soundtrack, a soft piano melody, began to play. And in that delicate moment, Ken turned his head slightly, just enough to catch her gaze again. She smiled faintly. He smiled back this time. And that's when the world stopped again. Because that single smile, captured by hundreds of cameras, became the image of the night. An image that would soon dominate every headline, every post, every heart that had ever believed in their story. When the movie ended, the crowd erupted into applause, but not for the film. Everyone's attention was still locked on Ken and Demet. Even the director, realizing who had stolen the show, smiled awkwardly and stepped aside. The spotlight seemed to follow them wherever they moved. Demet stood up slowly. The applause turned into a standing ovation, not for the performance on screen, but for the real story unfolding right before everyone's eyes. She nodded gracefully, then began walking toward the exit. Ken hesitated for a few seconds, then followed, not immediately, but just far enough for people to notice. Backstage, chaos reigned. Journalists ran toward the hallway, photographers shouted over each other, flashes lit up every corner of the theater. But by the time they reached the back door, Demet was gone. She had slipped into a side corridor, away from the noise, the cameras, and the crowd. And that's where fate stepped in again. Ken turned a corner, and there she was. Standing near the old marble staircase, alone, her phone in her hand, her eyes lowered as if lost in thought. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them said everything. "You weren't supposed to be here," he said quietly. Neither were you supposed to look at me like that, she replied, her tone soft but steady. Ken looked down, half smiling, half defeated. I didn't plan it. He paused. I didn't think it would still feel this way. Demet's eyes met his again. Some things don't change, Ken. They just wait. For the first time in years, there was no script, no audience, just two people facing their unfinished story. He took a step closer. She didn't move. The air felt heavy, charged with everything they hadn't said since the last time they met. And just when he was about to speak again, a voice called from the hallway, a production assistant, shouting for Ken to come for the press photos. Demet looked away, blinking fast. The spell broke. She whispered, you should go. Ken didn't answer. He just looked at her one last time, the same way he had years ago, right before walking out of her life. He turned, walked a few steps away, then stopped. Without looking back, he said, Rome always brings back memories, but this time, I think it gave me one more. And with that, he disappeared into the crowd once again. Demet stayed there for a moment, alone in the quiet corner of the grand hall. She looked up at the ceiling, took a deep breath, and smiled, the kind of smile that hides 1,000 emotions but shows one undeniable truth: it wasn't over. Outside, the fans were chanting his name. Cameras flashed as Kim returned to the red carpet, looking composed again, like nothing had happened. But his eyes, they betrayed him. There was something different, something softer, as though part of him was still standing in that marble corridor with her. That night, every Italian newspaper, every online portal, every entertainment site carried the same headline: Shock in Rome, Can Yaman and Demet Özdemir reunite at the film festival, the moment nobody saw coming. When the night finally ended, Rome didn't sleep. Outside the festival hall, hundreds of fans stayed long after the lights went out, still talking, still filming, still replaying that one moment when Can and Demet's eyes met again. Social media was on fire. Within an hour, clips of their brief exchange had reached millions of views. The hashtag #CanDemetRome moment trended in more than 20 countries. Influencers, journalists, and even celebrities joined the conversation. Some said it was fate, others called it destiny. But the truth was, nobody really knew what had just happened between them. Inside his hotel room later that night, Ken sat alone by the window, looking out at the flickering lights of the eternal city. His phone buzzed non-stop, messages from friends, agents, directors. Everyone wanted a statement. But he didn't reply to anyone. He just stared at a single message at the top of his screen. It was from an unknown number. One that he hadn't seen in years. It read simply, "You looked exactly the same." Maybe that's what scared me the most. He smiled faintly, his thumb hovering over the reply box. But he didn't send anything. Instead, he turned off the phone, leaned back, and closed his eyes. He thought of the girl he had met years ago, the one who laughed too loudly, who dreamed too much, who made him believe love could survive even in front of 1,000 cameras. He thought of the promises they never made, the ones they were both too afraid to keep. And as the first light of dawn painted the rooftops of Rome gold, he whispered to himself, maybe the story never really ended, maybe we just paused it. Across the city, in another hotel not far from his, Demet sat at her vanity, removing her makeup slowly, her expression unreadable. She glanced at her reflection, and for a brief moment, she saw the same young woman who had once fallen for him. Not the actress, not the celebrity, just Demet, the girl who had loved him in silence when the cameras weren't rolling. Her assistant knocked softly. "Are you okay?" Demet smiled gently, almost as if waking from a dream. "Yes. I just remembered why I came to Rome." "Why?" She looked at the mirror one last time. To see if time really changes everything. The next morning, Italian tabloids exploded with headlines, "They spoke again after years." Was this the night everything changed? Demet's secret message to Can. But both of them stayed silent. No statements. No interviews. Just silence, the kind that means more than words ever could. A week later, at the airport, a journalist finally caught up with Can as he was boarding his flight to Istanbul. Can. Everyone's talking about that moment in Rome. Will you see her again? He stopped, smiled, and looked straight into the camera. Some meetings don't need to be planned, he said softly. They just happen when they're meant to. Then he walked away. The footage went viral again, but this time it wasn't the shock or the glamour that captivated people. It was something far simpler, the sense that maybe, just maybe, the love story that once lit up the screens hadn't burned out after all. And as the plane took off over the golden skies of Rome, two souls, separated by distance but connected by memory, carried with them the same thought: Rome always brings back memories. But sometimes, it gives you new ones too.